Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cutting straight into a story that really paints a stark picture of a legal system in New York. There's one article claiming quite dramatically that injury lawyers turn New York courts into Ellis Island for illegal immigrants.
That's a strong headline.
It is.
Well,
And to start, let's maybe think about Angel Peralta Ordonez. He's an Ecuadorian immigrant.
right.
Crossed the border from Mexico, September 2022.
Okay.
Makes his way to New York City, and, well, according to legal documents, just weeks later he files a personal injury lawsuit. Says he was injured cleaning a construction site.
Within weeks. Wow.
Yeah, and the point is, this isn't presented as just some isolated incident. It feels like an opening into something much broader, more complex. So our mission here in this deep dive is to sort of distill the key insights from the sources you shared with us. We want to give you, the listener, a clear understanding of how this specific legal setup in New York, plus some really unique financial incentives,
Right.
allegedly create what insurers are actually calling a rampant scheme right there in the courtrooms.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to clearly dissect the players, the mechanics, and the surprising human cost of it all.
And as we go through this, we'll be pulling together different kinds of information. You've got legal statutes, insurance data, but also some very personal stories. By connecting those dots, the goal is to build a picture that, frankly, raises some tough questions. Questions about accountability, fairness, where the money's flowing.
Yeah.
We want you to understand not just what's happening, but maybe why it matters, potentially to you as a consumer, as a taxpayer.
Okay, so let's start digging into that phrase, rampant scheme. That's what the insurance companies are alleging. They're saying there's this pattern, right? In New York courts, plaintiff lawyers actively recruiting poor and frequently undocumented workers for what the insurers call questionable tort cases. And just for clarity, a tort is basically a civil wrong causing harm leading to liability.
You're right, like a personal injury claim. And it's a serious accusation, definitely.
It really is.
And maybe the most insidious part, as one construction insurance broker, Jason Bartow, points out, this isn't just an insurance company problem.
So?
He calls it a vicious cycle of increase on top of increase. Think about it. Premiums shoot up, contractors get exclusions from regular insurance. Those costs have to go somewhere.
They get passed on.
Exactly, passed on to us, the consumers. Higher construction costs for everything. Schools, roads, housing. It's like a hidden tax, really.
That makes understanding the mechanics even more crucial then. When they say scheme, who are the alleged key players?
Well, according to the insurer's claims, it seems to break down into three main groups. First, the plaintiff lawyers themselves. Firms like Gennart Law Firm, they represented Peralta Ordonez. They actually, promote their expertise with undocumented workers.
Okay.
Then you have the medical providers. The allegation is there's a whole network, surgeons, radiologists, others, who are supposedly performing unnecessary procedures. The idea is to turn maybe minor nuisance cases into these huge multi-million-dollar settlements.
Unnecessary procedures.
Yeah, I mean, Union Mutual Fire Insurance, in their ISO suit, they put it bluntly. They say doctors are incentivized to find injuries that don't exist, overtreating as much as possible, and performing needless surgery.
Wow. Okay, and the third group?
Lawsuit lenders. This is fascinating. A defense lawyer mentioned how these lenders allow plaintiffs to basically walk into an attorney's office and walk out with a check for 10, 15 grand.
Just like that.
By signing contracts for loans against the future value of their lawsuit. So, upfront cash based on a potential win down the road.
It really does sound like a whole ecosystem. What's the payoff that makes it attractive, the financial reward?
That's the million-dollar question, or maybe the multi-million-dollar question. Don Orlando from Tradesman Insurance really highlights the stakes. He says a single case, say for a 20-year-old claiming permanent disability, can be worth $5 million.
$5 million.
And settlements often start around $2.5 million. When you see numbers like that, the financial pull for everyone involved, lawyers, doctors, lenders, it becomes, pretty clear. It seems to drive the whole thing.
But why New York specifically? You hear about lawsuits everywhere. What makes it, as the sources say, especially severe there?
Now we get to the heart of it, legally speaking. It really seems to hinge on a unique New York state law, Labor Law Section 240.
The Scaffold Law. I've heard of that.
Exactly, that's its common name. And the law itself is written very broadly. It lets workers sue building owners, general contractors, for pretty much any injury remotely related to the force of gravity.
Any injury, so not just falling off a scaffold.
No. Could be tripping on stairs, stepping off a ladder, anything gravity-related. But here's the absolute kicker, the thing that makes New York stand out. It's how judges have interpreted it. They apply what's called strict liability.
Strict liability meaning?
Meaning the defendants, the owner, the contractor are liable regardless of whether the worker was partly or even mostly at fault.
Wait, regardless.
That's the interpretation. One analysis we saw put it starkly. Only under the Scaffold Law can a claimant be 99% at fault for causing his or own injuries and still recover 100% of the damages.
That is exceptional. I can see why that would change things.
It's a huge factor. It's almost unheard of in other states to have that kind of standard for these types of cases.
And that interpretation, that strict liability, that's had a massive impact, hasn't it? The data seems pretty alarming.
It really does. Chubb Insurance did a study. They found workers' comp claims over $5,000 are 85% more frequent in New York compared to other states.
85% more frequent.
And get this, 70% of those big claims also come with a Section 240 lawsuit attached.
So they stack up.
They often do.
Yeah.
And it goes on. New York construction companies, they report one bodily injury claim for every $2.74 million in payroll.
Okay. Is that high?
It's 13 times higher than the national average.
13 times.
And the really big claims, over $250,000, they're 30 times more likely in New York. Plus, the average payout for a Section 240 claim jumped 90% just between 2012 and 2019.
Those numbers are staggering. They really paint a picture of a system under, well, immense financial pressure.
Immense pressure is right.
So, okay, with stakes this high, you'd think these cases would constantly be going to court, big battles.
You would think so.
But we're told less than 5% of these scaffold law claims actually go to trial. Why wouldn't they fight it out?
Because going to trial can be even more expensive, potentially catastrophic, for the insurers, and ultimately for the ratepayers who cover those costs.
Juries might award even more.
Exactly. There are examples. A Manhattan jury awarded $102 million in a Section 240 case in 2023. Now, it got reduced later to $20 million, but still.
Still a huge number.
Right. Another plaintiff got $30 million in 2021. Faced with that kind of potential verdict, settling even for millions becomes the more predictable, maybe less risky financial move for the insurance company.
Okay, that makes sense. Limit the exposure. So these huge potential payouts, the push towards settlement, that brings us back to the money. The lawsuit lending aspect, you said it fuels the entire machine.
It seems to be the financial engine, yeah. These lenders aren't just giving out individual loans. They're often bundling these loans to plaintiffs together.
Bundling them. Like mortgages.
Kind of, yeah. And then they syndicate them, basically sell shares in these bundles to a wide range of investors. We're talking hedge funds, banks, even mainstream mutual funds might end up holding this kind of debt.
So the risk gets spread around, but the money flows in?
Precisely. And the interest rates, they're described as astronomical, frequently over 50% a year.
50%? How is that legal? Aren't there caps on interest rates?
Well, that's another New York quirk. The state apparently doesn't enforce its usual 16% interest cap on consumer loans if the loan repayment is contingent on winning the case. It's considered more like an investment than a traditional loan.
Ah, a crucial distinction.
A very crucial one. And documents obtained by insurers reportedly show some of that borrowed money flows almost immediately to surgeons and other medical providers.
So the doctors get paid up front, partly from these loans.
It seems so.
Yeah.
And that loan money starts accumulating that super high interest, which at the end of the day gets subtracted from whatever the plaintiff eventually recovers. There are even specialized firms just providing lines of credit directly to the plaintiff law firms themselves. One example cited was an Oregon mutual fund extending $8 million to a funding company that's now actually named in one of the RATO lawsuits.
It's easy to get lost in the abstract numbers, the allegations of schemes.
It is.
But it becomes much more real when we look at specific cases, the human stories in the source material.
Absolutely. Take Daniel Antonio Peralta Jimenez. His story is quite something. Undocumented immigrant from the Dominican Republic. In 2012, he tripped on a stair. He used a false name, initially his father's name. He later explained it was as a sign of affection and respect in my culture.
Okay. And his case?
It eventually settled for $1.7 million, which, according to the reporting, was considered well within the normal range for Section 240 claims.
$1.7 million. So he must have received a substantial amount.
Well, that's the shocking part. His actual take-home from that $1.7 million, only about $427,000.
Wait, only $427K out of $1.7 million? That's barely 25%.
Roughly, yeah. About a quarter.
So where did the other, $1.3 million go?
The distribution detailed is, well, it's telling. His lawyers, Subin Associates, got over $564,000.
It's okay, legal fees.
Then the lenders. Two different ones, Case Cash and Wall Street Case Advance, they received a combined $614,000.
More than the lawyers.
Yeah.
More than the plaintiff himself.
Exactly. And then there was Dr. Michael Gerling. He's actually a defendant in that Union Mutual ISCO suit. He claimed $68,000 from the settlement.
And this was for tripping on a stair. What were his injuries?
That's another point. The emergency room report apparently showed no significant injuries right after the incident.
No significant injuries.
But he ended up having knee surgery, 2 back surgeries, and a neck surgery, some performed by doctors, including Dr. Gerling.
It really highlights the gap between the headline settlement number and what the injured person might actually end up with.
A huge gap.
And then there's another case mentioned, Manuel Martinez, equally disturbing.
Yeah, his case involved a slip and fall back in 2014. Apparently, some unknown man showed up right after, took photos, and sent them to the law firm, Subin Associates.
What did the initial medical report say?
Roosevelt Hospital found no serious injury. But again, 2 doctors, Arden Kaisman and the same Dr. Gerling, performed neck and back surgeries on him.
And were those surgeries deemed necessary later?
A radiologist working for the defense testified later that, in his opinion, the surgeries were unnecessary.
Unnecessary surgeries.
And the most tragic part, maybe, comes from Martinez himself. After his law firm dropped him, he wrote this handwritten response to the court, November 2023.
What did he say?
He wrote, and I'm quoting loosely here, Your Honor, it is impossible to keep a fraudulent lifestyle for 9 years. No one frauds, spelled Fraudes, multiple surgeries and recoveries that are this detrimental to my life.
He's saying the suffering was real, regardless of the case circumstances.
Seems so. He continued, I cannot fraud the pain and suffering I have endured for the past 9 years. He also apparently told a defense attorney in court that the surgeries never helped him and he wished he did not have them.
Wow, that's heartbreaking. It adds such a complicated layer to the whole fraud allegation. The human cost seems immense either way.
It really does. And these stories, they really ground that quote from Tom Stebbins. He's with the Lawsuit Reform Alliance of New York. He described it as, and it's a stark quote, it's a grotesque and gruesome network where they're recruiting migrants, disfiguring them, and then ensuring they are left with practically nothing.
Disfiguring them.
After the lawyer, the doctor, and the lender each take their third, the migrant is often sent back to the shelter with a fused spine. It's a brutal assessment.
And it's hard to track this systematically, right?
Yeah.
Because the settlements aren't public.
Exactly. New York law keeps closing statements confidential, so figuring out precisely how much plaintiffs actually pocket across the board is incredibly difficult. It keeps a lot of this hidden from public view.
So, given all these really serious allegations, the individual stories, the financial data, what are the consequences? How are people responding?
Well, the insurers are certainly pushing back. You mentioned Union Mutual Fire Insurance filing that RIC suit.
Right, the racketeering suit. That's a big deal.
It's a huge legal tool, usually aimed at organized crime. They're accusing multiple law firms, doctors, lenders of basically being part of a racketeering conspiracy.
And any other actions from insurers?
Yes. Liberty Mutual took a really drastic step back in July. They announced they're excluding coverage for any construction operations performed in New York State.
Any. Even if the company is based elsewhere.
Even for policies they issue in Connecticut or New Jersey. If the work is in New York, they won't cover it for construction. That sends a powerful message about the perceived risk there.
A massive market signal. What about politicians? Are they trying to change the law or address this?
There's some movement there, too. Congressman Nick Langworthy from New York, he introduced a bill. It aims to stop the Scaffold Law's strict liability rules from applying to any construction projects that use federal funding.
Trying to carve out an exception.
Yeah. He called the law a gift to trial lawyers and a burden on our construction workers and taxpayers.
And others?
Congressman Mike Collins, Republican from Georgia, he's also raised concerns, warning Attorney General Pam Bondi about rising insurance fraud nationally. He cited a figure of $45 billion a year as the cost passed on to consumers nationwide from fraud.
It's important, though, to hear from the law firms being accused, too. What's their position?
Absolutely. Subin Associates, who were involved in those cases we discussed, they gave a statement to a New York TV station. They said the firm has an 8-decade record in matters involving serious personal injury and that it takes its ethical responsibility obligations seriously. And it was also noted in court during one proceeding that a lawyer representing Subin explicitly refused to subject their client to what they called intimidation based on his immigration status.
So pushing back against linking immigration status to the validity of the claim.
Right. It shows the complexity, the different arguments being made. It's not a simple picture.
No, definitely not. This deep dive has really pulled back the curtain on, well, a truly tangled situation, hasn't it? You've got this unique New York law, Section 240. You've got these powerful financial incentives driving settlements and lending. You have the alleged roles of lawyers, doctors, lenders, and then the profound human impact, both on the individuals, especially vulnerable immigrant workers, and on the wider economy through these soaring insurance costs.
Yeah, and if you step back, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a stark example of how one specific legal clause or a set of financial arrangements in just one state can send these huge ripples through an entire industry. And ultimately that affects construction costs, insurance rates, it affects taxpayers and consumers like you. It really highlights how opaque some parts of our legal and financial systems can be and how significant the consequences are, often downstream from what seems like a niche regulation.
It really does. And this whole discussion, it leaves us with a pretty fundamental question, doesn't it? How do we actually strike the right balance? How do we ensure genuine access to justice, fair compensation for real injuries,
Right.
while also putting up strong safeguards against potential exploitation, against systemic fraud, especially when, as you said, the details of these crucial settlements are so often shielded from public view.
Making oversight really difficult.
Exactly. What kind of transparency, what kind of reforms could possibly address the challenges, these really complex, multifaceted challenges that we talk about today? Something for all of us to think about.